I'm sure many of you out there can relate when I say that I just want to take over this entire backyard for gardening. There's never enough space for growing all the stuff that we want to grow. We have 2 very mature maple trees back here that shade out most of the yard. We have really strong reservations about cutting down either one of them completely. We would have to put a lot of thought into it before we did anything like that, but we would be sure that if we did, we would use absolutely everything from it for wood chips, setting up some hugelkultur beds even, and then even making some little habitats around the yard for wildlife. But even right now, you can see we've got all this other space out here where we do get quite a bit of sun. You know, probably a little better vantage if I go up to the roof, so let's pop up there real quick. So you can see, oh, I thought you were right behind me. Come on up here. All right. Oh, that was fast. Okay, so we've got all of this space down in here, and we still get a lot of sun right there. We get the most over where the garden is, of course, but there's still several hours in this area, so there's a lot that we can do there. And I'm thinking a permaculture style food forest would be pretty awesome to have out there. And more I am disliking having all these fences around things, because it just leads to more frustration when something inevitably gets in there and snacks on your veggies and you get upset. And I don't like that feeling of fighting with nature. So I would like to just add tons of stuff all out in here, and even eventually take down these fences and just have one big garden area where things can come along and snack as much as they want to. That's totally fine. If we grow in abundance, then there's plenty for us and everything else that lives around here. So, so looking at this space, it's you know, it's like looking at a blank page. There's so much that you can do with it. It's kind of daunting. So it's probably good to just get out the sketchbook and start putting some ideas out there. All right, so I did an overhead sketch of the backyard, rendered in exquisite detail. This is all exactly to scale, by the way. So the main garden, compost back in the corner. We've got our 2 big maple trees. This deck is in bad shape. It's poorly constructed. It was not maintained well before we bought the house. Also, the stairs come out on this side, so you have to walk all the way around. And that just is not very convenient for someone who goes out to the garden pretty much every single day. So in the next year or 2, we are going to have to replace this, and that'll give us a chance to redesign it to set up some stairs closer to the garden. And we also have this cinder block raised bed, which is just being used for compost right now. That's fine. It's not really a good spot for growing veggies. But when we redesign the deck, we can probably remove that or relocate it or whatever. And I also made dotted lines for the utilities, which are underground, and those should be about 3 to 4 feet below. But just to be on the safe side, we shouldn't plant any fruit trees or larger perennials directly over those, because we don't want the roots to possibly damage anything. So that's why I put the lilac bush a little over to the side here. We also have our gas line coming around this way, so just want to watch out for those. For most of the stuff we're growing in here, that shouldn't be a problem. And there's this rectangle of cement down in here, which I don't know what that was for, but maybe we can figure out something to do with that related to the garden in the future. All right, so we've got all of this space to work with here. We get a lot of sun still all around in here. So when I started thinking about what to do here, I realized that the best place to start really is to figure out our walking paths. So we want to be able to go back to the compost here and, you know, try to maximize the growing space as much as possible. So Come out from the deck here, and we can leave this open since we are planning to redo the deck at some point. So somewhere over there we'll come around from there, and then we also have the corner of the house here where we just have temporary fence right now, but we want to be able to put in a gate and come in that way. So we can do a little bit of a path here, and I'm not sure if we may remove this cement pad at some point. I'll just go ahead and draw the path through here. So that's basically the structure that that we want, and then we can just fill in everything that we want to grow all around there. And for these paths, we are just going to use wood chips because, first of all, they're free. You can get them free from several different sources. We have been getting them from the Habitat for Humanity Restore, which is just down the street. They actually are the supplier. They provide them from the city landfill, which breaks down wooden pallets and fallen trees and timber and all kinds of things. So there's a lot of source material going into that, into the wood chips. So it's really maybe not the best quality. So I do still want to look for some other sources of wood chips. I know a lot of people like to just call up the local landscaping companies and get them to drop off wood chips for free. And of course you also want to ask questions about what the source material is for those as well. Things like black walnut and eucalyptus can inhibit plant growth. And I don't think we have anything like that here in Iowa. It's mostly a lot of maple and oak. So it shouldn't really be a problem, but it's always a good idea to ask questions about that. But we're definitely going to need some larger quantities of those to fill in here. And you know, the wood chips we've been using, I have put them in the paths in the garden here, but I would not want to use them actually in the beds because I'm just not exactly sure of what is in those. But we'll figure out some other sources for that. But wood chips are just great because they will feed the soil. They'll soak up a lot of water when we get tons of rain, and they're just a good natural source that is, it's very easy to use for paths. You don't have to really worry about, you know, getting pavers and stone and all that stuff. You can just dump out a bunch of wood chips and pretty easily set up a whole new path wherever you want it to go. So that's our choice for that, and I think that will actually work quite well. So now we have the paths all set up, and we have literally hundreds and hundreds of options of what we could grow in these spaces. And I have just a few things I want to talk about because they are incredibly important. They're things that we don't currently grow, and we definitely need to because they have a lot of really good benefits for the garden, especially for trying to set up a permaculture system here. So as far as everything else, I'll have plenty of time to do more research and planning over the winter and get this all figured out so that in the spring of 2020 we can start implementing this. But the thing that I want to start with is comfrey, because it is one of the most useful herbs out there, again, for doing permaculture gardening. It has medicinal properties. It's been used for that for millennia, really, and but lately it's been found that it can actually be harmful when it's ingested, so it is not really edible. It's mostly used for an external medicine, but we are going to use it for its soil fertility benefits. It has very deep roots and pulls up nutrients from deep in the soil and stores all that in the leaves and the stems. And so you can just chop and drop this wherever you want to add fertility. We can put it in the garden beds. We can add it into the compost. Wherever we need it is extremely useful. So that's definitely number one on the list of things that we need to be growing to improve all of our gardening pretty much. Next on the list is borage, which it can also be used as mulch because it stores potassium and calcium in its leaves, and but really it's a really great pollinator attractor, and it attracts a wide range of things, all kinds of bees and predatory insects. So in that way, it's a really good companion plant. So we can even grow things like strawberries and squash around in here too, and it will help to pollinate those. And then also some brassicas, some cabbage and broccoli we can add in here. And the borage will attract predatory insects that can help control the cabbage worms. So that would be a great to expand our growing space out here. And then of course we can even put in some onions. We have some Egyptian walking onions and some chives and things that we can put out here to try to keep away some of the local wildlife. But even if they do get in here and snack on some of the things, we can grow lettuce and kale out here too, and that's totally fine. But this is just a great area for doing some companion planting and increasing the space where we can grow more vegetables as well as some herbs and some flowers to attract more pollinators. And lupines are also great. They are in the legume family with beans and peas and clover. So these are great for over time adding in some nitrogen for the benefit of everything else around them. And so these get very tall, so we can put them more kind of in the back of this arrangement. Really not sure how we want to do all of this, but we definitely get more shade from the tree as we get further back here. So some shade tolerant plants would be better as we get further back in this direction. And we could even add another little path area kind of connecting this and do a little triangle with a whole bunch of things there. All kinds of stuff we can do. So after that, we have just an endless list of things that we can add in to attract more beneficial insects and wildlife. Things like echinacea, rudbeckia, some bee balm. We've still never actually grown sunflowers, so this would be a good spot for those on the north side of the garden. They won't shade things out too much. There's a little bit of space with the path right there, so they won't shade these out. But just endless possibilities. We have plenty of time to figure that out before trying to get started on this next spring, and I really can't wait to do that. So of course I'll be making more videos about this in the future as I continue to research and figure out what we can grow in these other spaces. I've even thought about doing a couple of blueberry bushes right down here, because this is the spot where we really get the most sun throughout the day, and they would be very happy right there, and so would I. But that could be nice with a gate coming in right here, having some blueberries. There's some space around here. Since the lilac is quite small right now, then we still have some sun for growing some other sun-loving flowers, but as that gets a lot bigger, there will be a lot more shade in this area, so then we can change to doing some more shade-tolerant plants. But really, it will be interesting to see how this progresses over the next few years, and it will take time to get it established and see how it balances with the local wildlife, but it will be very interesting to see all that happen. So hopefully a couple of years from now, you'll be seeing a very different backyard, and we'll have a nice, diverse landscape back there, and hopefully keep growing lots of good food. So you can see I've already started laying out wood chips along this part where I want to establish a path going back to the compost. And these are just the free ones from down the street, but it would take a billion trips to keep using those, so I'm gonna have to find a larger quantity and definitely a better quality too. So that's something that I can just keep working on before the winter, setting up all the paths and everything, and then in the springtime we'll be ready to go to start planting everything that we want back here. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful in some way, and I'll see you next time.